Chengyu are a type of traditional Chinese idiomatic expression, most of which consist of 4 characters. Chengyu were widely used in classical Chinese and are still common in vernacular Chinese writing and in the spoken language today. According to the most stringent definition, there are about 5,000 Chengyu in the Chinese language, though some dictionaries list over 20,000. They are often referred to as Chinese idioms or 4-character idioms. However, they are not the only idioms in Chinese. Background: Chengyu are mostly derived from ancient literature. The meaning of it Chengyu usually surpasses the sum of the meanings carried by the 4 characters, as Chengyu are often intimately linked with the myth, story or historical fact from which they were derived. As such, Chengyu do not follow the usual grammatical structure and syntax of the modern Chinese spoken language, and are instead highly compact and synthetic. Chengyu in isolation are often unintelligible without explanation, and when students in China learn Chengyu in school as part of the classical curriculum, they also need to study the context from which the Chengyu was born. Often the 4 characters reflect the moral behind the story rather than the story itself. For example, the phrase "break the rocks, sink the boats" is based on a historical account where the general Xiang Yu ordered his troops to destroy all cooking utensils and boats after crossing a river into the enemy's territory. He won the battle because of this no-retreat strategy. Similar phrases are known in the West, such as burning bridges or crossing the Rubicon. This particular idiom cannot be used in a losing scenario because the story behind it does not describe a failure. Another example is, it is an idiom that has a deeper meaning that implies suspicious situations. It is derived from an excerpt from a Han-era poem. The poem includes the lines, "Don't adjust your shoes in a melon field and don't tidy your hat under the plum trees," admonishing the reader to avoid situations where, however innocent, he might be suspected of doing wrong. The literal meaning of the idiom is impossible to understand without the background knowledge of the origin of the phrase. However, some idioms such as "wind from an empty cave" and "barefaced facing the emperor" are widely misunderstood that the literal meanings have overtaken their original ones. "Wind from an empty cave" is now currently mistakenly used to describe rumors without source when the actual meaning is the opposite. It used to describe rumors with actual, solid sources or reasons. "Barefaced facing the emperor" is now misused to describe beauty that doesn't require makeup, e.g., when entering court. Its original meaning is to be confident in one's true look. However, that is not to say that all Chengyu are born of and often told fable. Indeed, Chengyu which are free of metaphorical nuances pervade amidst the otherwise contextually driven aspect of written vernacular Chinese. An example of this is speaking, yet without trust, referring to an individual who cannot be trusted despite what he says, an essentially deceitful person. The idiom itself is not derived from a specific occurrence from which a moral may be explicitly drawn. Instead, it is succinct in its original meaning and would likely be intelligible to an individual learned in formal written Chinese. Its archaic nature is only betrayed by the now unusual use of the character yan as a verb. Many Chinese idioms have their English equivalents. For example, "and the tip of the iceberg" share both the literal and idiomatic meanings, while "and to speak with one's tongue in one's cheek" share idiomatic meanings. Chinese idioms can also serve as a guide through Chinese culture. Chengyu teach about motifs that were previously common in Chinese literature and culture. For example, idioms with nature motifs, e.g., mountains, water, and the moon, are numerous. Works considered masterpieces of Chinese literature, such as the 4 great classical novels, serve as the source for many idioms, which in turn condense and retell the story. Chinese examples. The following 3 examples show that the meaning of the idiom can be totally different by only changing one character. 1 day, 1,000 autumns. Meaning implies rapid changes. 1 day equals 1,000 years. 1 day, 1,000 miles. Meaning implies rapid progress, traveling 1,000 miles in a day. 1 day, 3 autumns. Meaning greatly missing someone. 1 day feels as long as 3 years. Other examples in Chinese. Japanese examples. Yojijukugo is the similar format in Japanese. The term yojijukugo is autological. Many of these idioms were adopted from their Chinese counterparts and have the same or similar meaning as in Chinese. The term kojisigo refers to an idiom that comes from a specific text is the source. As such, the overwhelming majority of kojisigo comes from accounts of history written in classical Chinese. Although a great many of the Japanese 4-character idioms are derived from the Chinese, many others are purely Japanese in origin. Some examples: ka, cho, fu, getsu, ichigo, ichi, okame, ichimoku's temyumiso, futamataga, yaku's fu, rin, ka, zan. Korean examples. The Korean equivalent to sajiseong-io. They have similar categorization to Japanese ones, such as for historical idioms. A list can be found at. The list with English translations may be found at. Structure of 4-character idioms. Dictionaries of Mandarin Chinese idioms. Herbert Allen Giles. A Dictionary of Colloquial Idioms in the Mandarin Dialect. Shanghai. A. H. de Carvalho. p. 65. Retrieved 10 February 2012. Herbert Allen Giles. A Dictionary of Colloquial Idioms in the Mandarin Dialect. Shanghai. A. H. de Carvalho. p. 65. Retrieved 10 February 2012.